Very, very good idea.
We are the Church of the Larger Fellowship, a Unitarian Universalist congregation with no geographical boundaries. We believe in cultivating curiosity and transformation that is rooted in profound love. The COVID-19 pandemic has irrevocably shaped how connections are formed in congregations across the United States and the world. The Church of the Larger Fellowship is committed to being a resource within Unitarian Universalism and beyond. From worship to covenant groups, from classes to pastoral care, and from our monthly magazine Quest to our online community hub and our letter writing ministry, we have found ways to build connection and community even through the screen. We have been a model for ministry on the margins, providing services for isolated Unitarian Universalists, becoming a spiritual lifeline for our members in prison. The CLF supports the ministries of those who hold target identities: Blue, Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism; Trust, Transgender Religious UU Professionals Together; and DRUUMM, Diverse Revolutionary Unitarian Universalist Multicultural Ministries, just to name a few. We know better than anyone how deep and meaningful connections can be formed, even from a distance. Unitarian Universalists have faced many challenges in these times, and we continue to persevere and fight for justice and equity for all people, especially during moments of crisis. We are proud to be a leader in this faith movement, and we invite you to get involved in our ministry. We strive to be a place where anyone from anywhere can find spiritual refuge anytime they need it. Welcome to the Church of the Larger Fellowship. We are so excited to bring you an all-new episode of The VUU. The VUU is a weekly Unitarian Universalist talk show discussing important faith-based topics from an anti-racist, anti-oppressive, and multicultural perspective. Every Thursday for the past 7 years, we have welcomed guests from every corner of the world. Our guests are writers, scholars, activists, and religious thought leaders who are shaping Unitarian Universalism and society for the 21st century and beyond. I hope today's show inspires you. Hope it builds your faith. Hope it gives you perspective to see the power of Unitarian Universalism at work in your life. Enjoy the message.
Hello, folks. I am DC Fortune, and I am coming to you from the central Pennsylvania valley of the Susquehanna River, ancestral home of the Susquehannock people, where it is sunny and I'm not sure what it is outside. It looks medium cold-ish, but that's just because it looks like November, December. Um, it's a beautiful day, so I'm glad for that. And I'm excited about today's program. So I'm going to hand it back to Christina. uh, oh, wow. Hi, I'm here. Apparently everybody can hear me. Cannot hear Devin. Nope. Yes. Yes. Just a tiny bit. Just a tiny bit. I am so not technically capable of such things. Have we heard from the YouTube folks that yay, Lori? Oh my lord. I can only imagine the entertaining nightmare that must have been. Nope. Say again? Hmm.
a fancy thing.
Hello, everyone.
Hey,
Can you out there in YouTube land hear me now?
This is interesting. We haven't been here before.
I like the
What a
colors.
fancy schmancy thing.
I am talking to the lovely folks of YouTube. Yes, Summer says they can hear us on YouTube.
Hello.
Hey! Oh, we get to see all the people. We get to see all the people. This is awesome.
I like it.
Okay. All right.
Woohoo.
Okay.
Mr. Lunsford, hi, sweetie. Good to see you.
Hooray, we hear you.
Okay,
Am I loud
this
enough
is
now?
Oh, way better.
Wait on
Way
it.
better.
Hear you
Yes.
Way
perfectly,
better.
Devin.
Thank the
All
Lord.
right. Let's try this again. Wait, do we have
Oh
everybody?
my word.
Wait.
What are we waiting on?
DL.
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 There's a box that doesn't have a person.
Stitcheroo cannot hear Ranwa.
Has Renwa said anything?
I was muted, that's all. Yeah.
Ah,
Trying.
okay. I think that's
All
better.
right.
I can hear you. DL says they're here, but we have to turn the camera on. We have to let them in, apparently, if somebody does.
Do, 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 do.
This is
So
exciting.
exciting.
We don't usually
know.
get to be over here.
I know. This is great.
Okay. Renwa can be heard.
Ronwell can be heard.
We can't see DL.
We cannot see you now.
I see a little gray box where DL is supposed to be.
You probably need to give permission for the camera if you do that already.
Oh, that's a thing.
Yeah, when I logged in, it said, "Do we have permission to use your camera?"
Oh, I did.
I
Whoopsies.
think DL is going to exit and re-enter. Well, we can do the intro again. Why don't we do that? Why don't we do that?
We were still
Let's
doing-
do that, friends.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christina Rivera.
Yay, hi, DL.
We've got DL. DL, say something so that people can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Nice. Let's see.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear. We can hear you. Yes, we're seeing if the
Awesome.
people out in YouTube land can hear you. Erin Marie thought they're Bluetooth. Yes, DL. All right. Everyone, thank you for hanging in there with us as we come to you live as we do, which means that, sometimes things get funky. I love it. I'm Christina Rivera, she, her pronouns, coming to you from the beautiful land of my ancestors on the island of Borinquen, which is also commonly known as Puerto Rico. The weather is lovely and beautiful, which is a blessing that I never take for granted. Aisha, how you doing?
I'm Aisha Hauser. My pronouns are she and her, and I am on the land of the Coast Salish people, also known as Seattle, Washington. And the weather is the opposite of what Chris has. So, Michael, that's all I'm going to say about Seattle weather.
It's all good. It is a warm fall day here in the Hudson Valley of New York, the land of the Kitchewan and Wappinger people. And DC, how are you?
I am well. It is a warm, sunshiny-ish day here in central Pennsylvania in the valley of the Susquehanna River, an ancestral home of the Susquehannock people. And I'm glad we got the tech worked out. This is very exciting.
And the most important thing we said in our UU roundup is that right now CLF is in the midst of our season that we call CLF Connects. You can go to clfuu.org/CLF Connects and learn more about it. We have lots of fun upcoming events this week and next week through the 27th of December, and we hope that you will join us. And Aisha has won all of the cooking competitions, fairly or not.
You should have won it last night.
And so Aisha is the queen chef of CLF, and it is okay.
Yes,
You do make
absolutely.
me laugh. I appreciate it.
And also on our UU Roundup, we just wanted to make sure folks knew the UUA Board of Trustees usually for the past while has been doing open houses. They've decided to reevaluate how they're reaching out to folks, so they are suspending their open houses while they kind of retool, revamp, and see what the best uses of their time are and best communication channels. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce our guests. Today we are bringing to you the leaders, some of the leaders of the partnership between DRUUMM, which is Diverse Revolutionary Unitarian Universalist Multicultural Ministries, and the CLF, who for the past 4 Sundays have held a vigil for the people of Palestine. So there are many people behind the scenes making those vigils happen. We were able to get 3 folks here to just talk a little bit about the who, what, where, and when about the vigils. So without further ado, we've got the Reverend Ranwa Hamami. They, them pronouns, is a Unitarian Universalist minister and Muslim. They're the child of Egyptian and Lebanese immigrants and previously served as president of DRUUMM on the steering committee as well. And we have, I'm just going to scroll, so that's why I'm Devin is an Iraqi Arab American Muslim in Southern California. He's a young adult university student and activist, and Devin hosts a podcast called The Bayat Beat and is a member of DRUUMM. And we have Reverend DL, they, them. Pronouns is a California now living in Providence, Rhode Island. They work both as a social worker in a gender clinic and part-time serving a congregation. As a Unitarian, a Jewish UU, they are active with Jewish Voices for Peace, particularly in Providence, Rhode Island, which I particularly am grateful for. My children, my adult sons are in school in Providence, and I know from them that that group has been a blessing for a lot of the young adult students at many of the campuses in Providence. So my personal thank you, DL. So we just wanted to ask, how did the vigil, like, what was the impetus to start the vigil? Like, how did this group come together and say, this is what is needed now in this time? And any of y'all can answer.
I would go a little further back if it's okay to jump in.
Please.
So, shortly after October 7th, I think a number of clergy and other religious professionals and UUs generally began trying to find each other, began trying to figure out where are the voices that were aware of what was going on in Gaza and Palestine and wanted to do something about it. And it took many forms, right? It took a form of a collegial letter calling folks in. And I'm struggling because now I'm like, well, how exactly did we get to the vigil? And I suspect Ranwa has the answer better than me, but I wanted to set the stage.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important that, the vigil is one piece of a larger effort amongst Unitarian Universalists and Unitarian Universalists, not solely clergy, not solely religious professionals, but Unitarian Universalist community that has been holding Gaza and broader Palestine in our hearts, that are, as DL was saying, are trying to find each other, are trying to make sense of how we respond as a faith and as a community, as we are witnessing what can only be described as a genocide by any legal definitions at this point. And so, there were efforts different pockets of efforts of whether there's organizing, whether there's letter writing, whether there's just simply, hey, can we just meet up and talk and just hold each other for a little bit? These little spaces have happened. There's different individuals or communities coming together. And this vigil came out of some ministers that have served with DRUUMM or are a part of DRUUMM, reaching out and saying, we, just in November, so, a month and a half into what has been happening in Gaza, we need a space for people to share their feelings. What we are witnessing is like incredibly traumatizing. There's significant moral injury. We're all grieving. We're all holding, just questions and grief in our hearts around what's happening. And so there was an invitation to say, what if we held a vigil where folks could name their feelings? We don't always engage our feelings as a faith. It's brilliant that we have a very we can be a very intellectual people. And it was important for us to come into our heart space, because unless we engage that heart space, we're not actually going to be able to have truthful, prophetic, healing, and world-shaping conversations at the end of this. And so I don't want to necessarily name the specific individuals involved, because I don't know if they're comfortable with that. Didn't ask. But certain individuals that had been a part of DRUUMM and are a part of DRUUMM got a group of folks together with Jewish identity, with Swana, Southwest Asian, North African identity, Muslim identities, and also white allies as a part of that process as well, different BIPOC folks as well, came together and said, how do we hold this space to show the collective that is involved in trying to hold what is happening in Gaza, and creating a space for others as well to come into it, hear that it's okay to feel whatever it is you're feeling around this. The world is not okay, and to continue to make that offering happen. After that first one, it became clear that people were hungry for it. And so we've been continuing to have these vigils on a weekly basis until the end of this, close to the end of this year.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Aisha had a question.
Well, one of the things that has been true probably forever, for the last 75 years, or at least in Unitarian Universalism, is there has been backlash and reluctance to talk about Israel in a way that's based in fact. So DL, I do want to lift up that I know, well, I have experienced UU clergy who are Jewish Unitarians who are very upset and feel that basically, this is all about anti-Semitism, and I know it comes from a place of trauma and woundedness and fear, absolutely fear. I get that, and there is a genocide happening. So I'm curious, in your position, how in what ways have you or haven't you been able to interact with colleagues who aren't part of Jewish Voices for Peace?
Thank you for raising that question. It's literally what I wanted most to address. Well, one of the things I wanted most to address. I want to tell you a very super quick story, which is that my partner, who has been doing work in Gaza for many years in various forms, has looked at me over time and has said, what is wrong with Unitarian Universalists? Those are her words. And I have been defensive of my beloved faith, right? Wrongly so, in retrospect. And I knew this. So the short answer is, I can talk to the congregation that I'm working part-time with. I've outed myself as an anti-Zionist Jew. I've talked to them about, what it means for Jewish voices, why groups like Jewish Voice for Peace and If Not Now, exist, why it matters that Jewish voices take the lead, as Rama correctly states, in trying to stop a genocide. I commend to you the movie Israelism, if you can find it, because it talks about how how we're imbued with this knowledge and how we are taught to connect Judaism with Israel from a very early age. And I'm not excusing us in any way, but it helps to see the linkages. I will say that I have been very unsuccessful in talking with my Jewish UU colleagues. With a very small exception, I am organizing and creating change with people who are not Jewish, except with Jewish Voice for Peace, who are not UUs. My desire is to, one of the places that it does overlap, though, is in these vigils. And one of the things we're realizing is, like UU Jews from the Middle East and other Jews will show up wanting to understand, trying to make that space. And we've been talking about the need for a caucus space, about the need for a space there to take people who are partway on this journey and move them further. And if it were up to me and what I will be working for going forward as a UU, is to help us move on this issue, because we are so, as a faith tradition, in the wrong place. The fact that we have not taken a stand when almost every other major faith tradition has. I want to say it's a sin. I don't believe in sin, but it's the closest thing I can think of.
Thank you.
Sorry for the long answer.
No, it's
Never apologize.
Yeah, it's not anything to be sorry for. And I do wonder why, why we don't have an unequivocal statement about the genocide that's going on currently in Palestine. And
since I don't work for the UUA, since I'm only a very part-time thing, I have freedom to say some things that my colleagues can't say. And I will say that I think we have taken a very weak position because we are afraid of alienating people, and that lessens all of us.
Yes.
Yeah, it very much reminds me of, the reluctance of people to the Black Lives Matter statements and, statements previous to that, and the amount of death and destruction that has to happen before people are ready to say, oh yeah, that's probably a terrible thing that's happening, is one of the things I struggle with most, in our faith. And the amount of pain and bloodshed that has to be shown to white folks in order for them to nominally even come to the table about it is something that I struggle with. Absolutely. Devin, I wanted to get your voice in on here, especially because you are in touch so much with youth and young adults around this, and I was wondering if I can ask what that perspective looks like or feels like.
Yeah, so I grew up 5 years old. I grew up VUU. I grew up in other spaces too, Islamic spaces, Buddhist spaces, and growing up, I was a lot of times the only Swana in the room. And I remember being 14 years old, and a lot of these adults would come to me like I was experts on, at the time it was the Syrian civil war, right? I was 14 years old at the time. They'd come to me like I was an expert just because of my ethnic background. Now, I was an expert compared to them. Yes, I was an expert. So I could tell them, but a lot of them weren't there yet, right? But I will say, for the young people and younger generation, because I'm very politically active. I'm in a lot of spaces with a lot of young people, a lot of transgender people, a lot of Muslim people. And, in this country specifically, when you have correspondents from the Daily Wire go to the RNC, the Republican National Committee, and say, we are going to eradicate transgenderism by any means necessary. When we have that happening, my transgender friends, my transgender colleagues, they come to me and they go, we don't know what to do with that. Because that's a call for genocide as far as I'm concerned in this country. We don't know what to do with that. And when I'm in these spaces and what I'm seeing progressively go on, because we're in the Biden era, the fear in the Trump era was very different. The Biden era fear, I am seeing it, they're all afraid. And it has been the duty of a lot of the Muslims to scare the fear out of the white people, because the white people are more afraid. But they're not going to be the ones persecuted at the end of the day as much as us. And I'll just be frank, you know, a lot of us, and this is the issue I have with Unitarian Universalism. We go side with love. We go love conquers all. Love this, love that. How do you want me to love my oppressor? Really? At the end of the day, how do you want me to love my oppressor? Love didn't end slavery in this country. We had a civil war for that. A lot of people died. A lot of people died. My great grandfathers, both of them, they fought for the Union in the Civil War. They fought to end slavery. And in fact, before that, who started slavery was John Brown. And John Brown was the first terrorist ever in the United States. He attacked Confederates. And historians agree, his actions against the Confederacy directly caused the Civil War. So I have my transgender friends and colleagues, they come to me, we don't know what to do. Okay? I will tell you this. I shoot firearms, I shoot guns. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I have taught people how to shoot firearms, young people. Almost all of them are members of the LGBTQ community. That's where we're at in this country. Okay? So that's where young people are at. That's where we're at. We saw what was happening in 2020. We saw the militias roll into Portland. We saw the militias roll into, what was it, Wisconsin. We saw what Kyle Rittenhouse did, okay? Bopped people, killed them. We saw how the judges treated Kyle Rittenhouse. And we saw unmarked US troops roll into our streets and kidnap people my age. So we're seeing that. And now we're seeing, I'm sorry, none of us are voting for Biden. That's just a fact. Now we're seeing our US military fund another genocide, because we already funded the Yemeni genocide. Okay. Now I'm Arab, so I've grown up with Gaza being sort of held hostage by Israel. 2008, 2012, 2014, 2022, 2021, 2023, they're always bombing Gaza. That's just what they do. Anytime there's resistance in the West Bank, that's why Israel likes Gaza. They like it, because when there's resistance in the West Bank, they can bomb Gaza. That's what they like to do. But now we're at a point where it is a full-scale ethnic cleansing. And I think colloquially, within the past 10 days, we have moved from ethnic cleansing to systematic genocide. And what I mean by that is now Israel is building the infrastructure to carry out mass executions. Now they are. Just yesterday, they carried out mass executions of infants. They killed infants, children. For Hanukkah celebration, they were firing tanks indiscriminately in the Gaza. What a distortion of Judaism. What a distortion. So
Thank you, Devin.
That's where we're
Yeah,
at.
I appreciate that. And I want to take a pause to take all of that in, because I think exactly what you're naming, everything that you just named, the horror of what you just named, at least for me, is why the CLF came into the Vigil, right? Because we saw the need for that naming and the truth to be able to be spoken in UU spaces and supported in pastoral care. Because if we can't get past the core of that, we can't, it immobilizes us, right? And I think that's part of what the media is doing is that constant bombardment, so that we can't get past that into here's what we need to be doing. So I wanted to, I think, Ron, when you had said that you had like a take on the love piece, and I wondered if you could relate that to what we're doing in the vigils.
Yeah, I really appreciate everything that's been named, because that question of like, I come to it too also, like how on earth do I love my oppressor? And I think so many of us with marginalized identities come into that space of like, what do you mean I'm supposed to love my oppressor? We don't talk about the no of love, which I think DL mentioned early on in what they were sharing. There is a no of love that says, you need to stop what you're doing, because it's not only harming the people around you, it is harming your very own soul. And when we talk about our collective humanity, our shared humanity, it's part of, we have covenant as a part of our theology. We talk about being in right relationship with each other and with the world. This is, it is the hard work of calling in people who are ripping their soul into pieces when they are engaging in these horrific acts, or even being complicit or silent when these things are happening. That part of our universalist theology is to say, we're not going to leave you behind. Who are the people that are reaching out to those folks that are kind of being left behind with their, the actions that they're taking? That's a different conversation. It shouldn't be the folks that are the marginalized core, but that is that universalism of that love that says absolutely no. I'm trying real hard not to swear, because sometimes I can swear when I get passionate, really trying to do my best here. And using that no to say, here's how you can restore your humanity. Here's how we can come back into right relationship with each other. And in this vigil, that's what is happening. There are people who are not only having that love and that grief, that healing love for the folks who are, or that attempt to hold a healing space for the folks that are just grieving the loss of thousands of lives. We're at the tens of thousands of lives at this stage. But also, how on earth do we center ourselves in a way, and especially those of us that maybe aren't as directly impacted, center ourselves in a way to reach out to folks who are silent, complicit in what is happening in Gaza and in the West Bank, and say, hey, here is the reality of what's happening to the people. Here is the reality of what's happening to your own humanity. How can we restore our shared humanity in this moment? And so these vigils offer a space for that kind of recentering, regrounding, remembering that we're in community like that. And that helps us to do some of that organizing work down the road, whether it's contacting your representatives. There is a way to, the administration, as much as many of us are frustrated with it, is realizing, oh, the majority of people maybe aren't on the same page of where the administration has been historically. And I think that's how raising our voices, whether it's through civil disobedience, nonviolent direct action, which can include like engaging in constant conversation with your representatives locally, nationally. There are different ways that people can do that yes and no of love together to restore humanity. So that's the piece I wanted to share a little bit on that. If there's others that want to say something.
Well, I think there is the BDS movement, and DL, would you share what that is before you have to go? And then we're going to extend a little bit past the hour because we started late.
So BDS is boycott, divestment, and sanctions, right? And it's a movement that has been around for a long time to force Israel via economic means. Because if you hurt someone where their profits are, they can sometimes change things. It hasn't been, what's hard in this time is that anti-Semitism is real. It is upticking, both anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. But they're also being wrongly conflated, that anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism are the same thing. And I say this because when you talk about like boycott, divestment, and sanctions, people are like, oh, you're being anti-Semitic. It's like, no, I'm trying to stop a genocide. And I want to say what I don't know if, we're not getting cues from the UUA that this is genocide, that we need to be taking action about. And I want to be clear, I was lucky and was on a call yesterday with one of the senators, a group of people with the senators, not just me. And what's really clear is that the administration is hearing the millions of people protesting. What's really clear is that the administration sees what's happening and they're not moving near fast enough. So I implore us as UUs, use the means at your disposal, which you probably are, be in the marches, protest, join the sit-ins, join the very important sorts of protests that are happening up to and including BDS, because your pressure is working, even if it doesn't look that way yet, and they need more pressure applied.
Thank you. I think
it's really crucial to realize, to my knowledge, the last time we heard from the UUA on the genocide, which was not named that, was October 17th. We're now December 14th. If there has been a statement since then, I would love to be corrected. I follow the UUA fairly well. And even in that statement, as I said, there was a call to support the United Nations, and faith-based NGOs, and a kind of a remembering of the 2002 action of immediate witness for peace and justice in the Middle East. And it's that it was a signatory towards a statement from churches on October 12th. But again, it condemned, quote unquote, the horrific terror attacks from Hamas, and implored the Israeli government to do what it could. But I'm reading through it again, and I'm fairly certain, because again, I read these things fairly deeply. But the mention of genocide, it is certainly not in there that I see it, nor is it first and foremost. And I really think after 2 months, there's no excuse. And, the fact that we've held vigils, for four weeks now, and the attendance of those vigils has not gone down, right? Usually when you start something like that, so you get the real high attendance, and then you kind of see people dropping off. People continue, Unitarian Universalists continue to need this space that is being brought together by a volunteer organization, DRUUMM, and the CLF, which is, entirely sponsored by our CLF members and supporters. And, where is our faith leading in this? Where are our faith leaders in this? In our association level, we've got lots of faith leaders working on this. So I just think that we need our association leaders to be in this with us. Aisha?
So I'm in the position to have fielded calls over the last few weeks because I spent 30 years as part of a Jewish family, was born in Egypt, grew up Muslim, and married and was disowned by my family because I married a Jewish man. So my children are half Jewish and Arab, and I'm a Unitarian Universalist faith leader. So I've gotten calls from colleagues, faith leaders, who are genuinely don't know what to do, especially if they are, I will be fair, I've not gotten calls from Jewish or Arab faith leaders. I've gotten calls from faith leaders who are UU, who are neither Jewish or Christian, Muslim, because they are hearing from the Jewish colleagues who are afraid, who have been conditioned into believing that Israel is the only safe place for Jewish people in the world. That's what the conditioning is. And DL, correct me if I'm wrong. That's the conditioning of when you grow up. My ex-husband was bar mitzvahed and grew up in a synagogue in New Jersey, and this is what the conditioning is. And so one of the so what I want to say is that one of the things I heard when I first became a Unitarian Universalist, and I was at something where people were like, UUA, this, that, and the other thing, and I get it, but somebody said the UUA is made up of people like us. And so I want to just say that there are folks who are truly wanting to be pastoral. And these are faith leaders who are, when we're activated, I've been a mess. Like I cried through the CLF sermon that I gave on Sunday, talking about Palestine and genocide and trying to get back to our fucking humanity. We curse here on, especially when we're talking about a fucking genocide, right? So I've been activated too. I've always known about Palestine, like Ranwa said, like Devin said, we grew up as Arabs. We hear it from the second we're born. I have uncles who fought in the Arab-Israeli War in '67, who took me to Sinai as a kid when I was there one summer. And they're like, here's how we defeated Israel. So the three of us grew up with this from the side of Arabs. We knew what was happening to the Palestinians. So I never thought in my lifetime I'd see the globe taking up the cause of a free Palestine. So what I want to say is, so I'm saying that I've literally gotten calls from people saying, I know very little about this. And these are people who went to some pretty prestigious seminaries, Harvard, Meadville, Lombard, Star King, what have you, who aren't Jewish or Muslim or Arab. And I also want to say, please also include anti-Arab sentiment, not just Islamophobia, because anybody wearing a keffiyeh, no matter what religion you are being targeted. And so I just want to kind of bring into, because there's been a conditioning of fear after the Holocaust, and this isn't at all to excuse this, because I want the fucking genocide to stop yesterday. It's to say that when folks who are about every other issue, I have colleagues who are liberal and Jewish who will absolutely clearly name when it is a genocide, when it is who the oppressor is and who the oppressed. But these same folks are activated and terrified and afraid because when you've been told your whole life the world will take every opportunity to eradicate you and the only safe place is Israel, and now that one safe place is committing the same genocide that was done to the Jewish people in Nazi Germany, I imagine that there is a war, an existential war happening inside many people who a part of them know how wrong this is, but there is a deep fear. So I'm just going to throw some grace to the folks at the UUA again, to be clear, not everybody at the UUA is calling me. I'm just saying I've gotten calls, from colleagues who just say, I don't know. And I think there is, people want to be pastoral. They want to do the right thing. But right now, the sad thing is, somebody here said, and I think it was DL, or somebody here said, like, how much is enough, or Devin. But the problem is, it's been way more than enough 10 years ago with what's happening to the Palestinians. So there's a different thing at play here. Here's where I see hope. I absolutely do see hope. Like I said, the world has taken up the cause of the Palestinians. The Israeli government and the homicidal maniacs that are running it, there I said it, are dead set on eradicating the Palestinian people. And now the world understands that. And the United States has lost its moral authority. Not that we ever had much, let's be clear. But I just want to like say, because Unitarian Universalism has so many people that are internally conflicted, I don't think anyone's a bad person who is afraid to name genocide if they are Jewish. I don't think the UUA is trying to harm Arabs by not naming this a genocide. I genuinely believe people don't know what to do and are trying to prevent more harm. The problem now is that ship has sailed. There right now, Gaza is being fucking leveled. And so we have to name this as a genocide and not be afraid, because our silence will not protect us. Thank you, Audre Lorde. And I will end there. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's the thing for me, Aisha, and absolutely the one. I mean, we're a faith community, and our faith leaders are pastoral, and God bless them that they are. And that's why I named, it's been 2 months. And I can see, I've seen the progression, and I too am somebody who grew up not knowing that there was conflict. And then, when I went to college, understanding what the conflict was and being aware. But, yes, that ship has sailed, and now is the time, for the support that is needed behind calling this genocide. And to that end, Ranwa did remind me that there is Ranwa, you want to just explain what that is
before they leave?
Yeah, let's have DL talk first.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Ranwa. I just want to say thank you. Wait, can you hear me? Yeah, you can hear me. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for naming all of the things that have not been named. Thank you for the intensity. I think the one thing I will say, and I'm sorry I have to go back to my day job, is that as activated as we are, it is our job to educate ourselves, and it is our job to do that now. There are lots of resources. If anyone is feeling lost, I will gladly send them resources, but it is our job to learn and to act. And I thank you so much for including me and for having this time.
Yes, I just wanted to talk about resources and media literacy and sort of the dedication and resolve. The Unitarian Universalists right now, our priorities in the churches are not set right. I just heard that yesterday that they want to take down the BLM flag in their congregations because BLM said free Palestine. That's where the priorities are right now. Okay, in Unitarian Universalist congregations. Now, if I was the president of a UU congregation, you know what I would be doing? I would be trying to get professors, scholars, activists, people from CARE, people from MPAC, people from JVP to come to my congregation and speak and to educate people. And you know what I think it comes down to is it shows the demographics of Unitarian Universalism, and that not being BIPOC and being BIPOC is two very different things. When you're BIPOC, you have the dedication, you have the resolve to do your research, to learn your history, to facilitate resources. But when you're not BIPOC, you don't because your life is not on the line. You don't have this dedication or resolve to do so. So people, they'll go, I don't have the resources. I don't know what to do. Yada yada. You have Google. If I'm 30 years younger than you, and I know more than you, that's kind of embarrassing. I'm sorry to say. I go on Google. I read books. Like, you want book recommendations? I can name 10 off the top of my head. 10 myths about Israel by Ilan Pape. Okay, you can read this all in order. Palestine, a 4,000-year history, Noor Masala. There you go. Next one, The Invention of the Jewish People, Shlomo Sand. These are Israelis and Palestinians I'm naming back and forth. Then you could read 100-Year War on Palestine, Rashid Khalidi. Then you can read Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine, Ilan Pape. They Call Me Lioness, Ahed Tamimi. And then justice for some newer aircraft, but I would say that doesn't matter anymore since international law clearly doesn't matter. So there you go. There's your resources. Start with those books and then move forward. But you have to recognize that if you don't know something, maybe it's because you don't have the dedication to learn it. Maybe it's because, when I read an article, I have the dedication to make sure what I'm reading is truthful. Meaning if something sounds fishy to me, I look on that journalist, I look at their credentials. If I don't know the news organization, I research the news organization and be like, well, what is this? What is their affiliation? What's their political agenda? Because everybody has a bias. I'm sorry, that's just true. Who funds them? Okay. I literally go the extra mile to make sure what I'm ingesting is truthful, and I internalize that truth and decide what I want to do with it.
I appreciate what folks have been sharing around, how do we know what to know? How do we engage the reality that a lot of us don't? What is happening is decades and decades long. And so they're not knowing a starting point about how do we engage. History didn't start what's happening on October 8th. It didn't start on October 7th. It didn't start on October 6th. This is something that has been going on for generations. And it is complex, it is nuanced, it involves generational trauma that many of us feel within our bodies. It's been named today. And so I appreciate Devin listing some of the resources. The Unitarian Universalist Association did have a webinar on this issue that included Southwest Asian, North African voices, Muslim voices, Jewish voices, called Why We Cannot Turn Away Resources for UU Leaders Engaging on Israel and Palestine. And so we had that webinar that also included a resource toolkit and as well a template for congregational conversations on this issue. Because again, it's what I was talking about with these vigils and why they're so desperately needed. We really do need to engage the heart space of this because our heads can't meet the moment if they're not in conversation with our hearts. And so we really need to come together, bring ourselves integrated in this moment, because what we're witnessing is causing a moral injury to all our souls in different ways. And so engaging these resources from whatever place we need to start is so critical, because we can't show up for each other and then show up for the people in Palestine and for the people in Israel who are also going through something.
Yes.
I do want to name that there is a reality here as well, but my priority is the folks being genocided right now, and there are other folks who are experiencing trauma as well. And so just really engaging these resources in a way that we just can show up for each other in that both yes and no of love that I mentioned. So I'm going to stop talking and let somebody else.
So all the links for what we've talked about are in the show notes. I do want to close with noting that Emma's Revolution, along with other artists, are holding a Season for Peace online fundraiser this Sunday, December 17th, 1 p.m. Pacific time. The link for that is available on the Emma's Revolution Facebook page. It will be benefiting the Middle East Children's Alliance, which is giving emergency assistance to families in Gaza who have had to flee their homes, as well as medical supplies. And Standing Together movement, it's a movement of Jewish and Palestinian citizens of Israel. Our future here is shared, and in order to guarantee a life here for all of us, we must do it together. That is beautiful. I encourage everyone to attend and to fork over some cold hard cash. This is the moment. This is the time. This is what's needed. If you're fans of Emma's Revolution, Holly Neer, Reggie Harris will be there, Maggie Wheeler, Greg Greenway, Annie Patterson, Nancy Schimmel, Kate Munger, and Leah Morris will also be there. Please show up, however you need to show up. It could be there, it could be at a vigil, it could be in your congregation. Have your congregation use these resources to start the conversation if it wasn't already happening. We do not need to wait. Yes, it would be lovely if the UUA, our association leaders, were making a statement, but we also do not need to wait for that. Thank you, everyone. We are on break for the VUU until January 11th. So come back then and we will see you then. Take care.
Thank you for joining us. Special thanks to those of you who give generously to this ministry. It is because of you that this ministry is possible. You can click the link in the description to give now, or visit clfuu.org/give for more information. We hope you will join us next week for another episode of The VUU.